Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into what is, honestly, the ultimate paradox of modern technology. Because on one hand, we have this mind-bending convenience, right? But on the other, we are facing some truly terrifying invisible vulnerabilities. Whether you're just tapping your phone to pay for a coffee, or you're eagerly waiting for the next big graphics card to drop, the ground underneath us is shifting really fast.
Look, tech moves fast, but security has to move even faster. The question is, are you keeping up? Because as of May 2026, the tech landscape has dropped 6 massive stories that directly impact your wallet, your personal privacy, and the everyday gadgets you rely on. We're talking about everything from critical mobile security alerts to totally paradigm-shifting hardware news from giants like Nvidia and Apple.
Okay, let's jump into the roadmap for today. We'll start with invisible financial threats, then examine the broken trust in big tech, navigate the whole AI market upheaval, and finally, wrap up with an ultimate defense protocol to keep you safe. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, invisible financial threats and how your wallet is literally under attack. Okay, you honestly won't believe this number. There has been a staggering 345% growth in NFC attacks in just the first quarter of 2026 compared to last year. And this isn't just some random spike. It's being driven by this highly sophisticated new malware known as Ngate. In Q1 alone, this specific malware contributed to $24 million in global losses. And you know what the absolute scariest part is? 87% of victims have literally no idea it's even happening until it is way too late. So how does this actually work? Well, it builds into a terrifying 4-stage attack. It starts with an infection on your mobile device, usually sneaking in through some fake app. Then comes the capture. Imagine you just tap your card near your own phone, maybe to make a completely normal, legitimate payment. But the malware acts as a hidden relay, quietly reading and storing your card's NFC data. Stage 3, it beams that data to the attacker's device, anywhere in the world. And finally, the exploitation. The criminal essentially uses their phone as a clone of your physical card. To make contactless ATM withdrawals or purchases, they don't need your physical card at all. Just one single invisible capture. And the financial threats definitely don't stop at NFC. We normally trust the Apple App Store without a second thought, right? But over the last few months, 47 highly sophisticated fake crypto apps somehow bypassed Apple's strict review process. They masqueraded as legitimate wallets, things like MetaMask or Coinbase. In January, $4.2 million was stolen. By March, that jumped to $7.1 million. Across just the first quarter, these fake apps completely drained $18 million in private keys and assets. Users downloaded what they thought was a completely safe app, typed in their recovery phrases, and basically handed the keys to their vault directly to the attackers. Moving right along to Section 2, broken trust in big tech, looking at the hidden flaws in our everyday tools. So, if you use an iPhone or an iPad, listen up, because an incredibly concerning bug was just patched. Prior to the newest update, when you deleted a notification on your device, let's say a really sensitive 2-factor authentication code from your bank or a private text, it disappeared from your screen, sure, but it remained entirely stored in a hidden database file deep in your device. This literally meant that if anyone gained physical access to your phone, like a snooping colleague or a border agent, all those supposedly deleted notifications were fully recoverable. Meanwhile, over in Google's corner, they are fighting their own battles. They just had to push out an emergency update to patch Chrome's first critical vulnerability of 2026. This was a 0-day flaw. Now, if you aren't familiar, a 0-day means hackers discovered and actively exploited a memory corruption issue before Google even knew it existed. It gives the developers literally 0 days to prepare, your antivirus won't catch it, and everyday users are essentially defenseless until that patch finally rolls out. And this brilliantly illustrates a much larger problem, because the danger is growing so fast. We've actually seen a 75% increase in Chrome 0 days over the last 2 years alone, going from 8 in 2023 all the way up to 14 in 2025. Why is this happening? Because the black market economics are just wild right now. A single Chrome 0 day can sell for up to $500,000. Honestly, with massive payouts like that, it's a wonder anyone writes legitimate software anymore. As Chrome's codebase gets heavier and more complex with all these new AI features, the attack surface just keeps expanding, making us all potential targets in a very, very lucrative cyber economy. All right, let's pivot to Section 3, the AI market upheaval. We are talking hardware, software, and some seriously shifting loyalties. If you've tried to buy a high-end graphics card recently, you already know it is nearly impossible. And here's why.
In Q1 2026, a massive 87% of Nvidia's $96 billion revenue came from data centers, meaning AI. Gaming GPUs, the very thing that built Nvidia's empire over the last 25 years, well, they now make up just 9% of their revenue. Nvidia hasn't just tweaked its business model. They have aggressively pivoted away from the loyal gamers who originally put them on the map. And to be honest, the brutal economics behind this shift are pretty simple. A flagship RTX 5090 gaming card sells for about $1,600, which nets Nvidia around $640 in profit. Not bad, right? But an H100 AI chip, that sells for a jaw-dropping $35,000 with a $24,500 profit margin. One single AI chip generates the profit of 38 flagship gaming GPUs while taking up the exact same manufacturing capacity. If you're Nvidia, the math kind of does itself. That is exactly why the 5090 has been out of stock for months and scalped at ridiculous prices online.
But that kind of ruthless logic has a deeply human cost. Gamers feel totally betrayed. Many are saying their decade of brand loyalty means absolutely nothing now. People who bought Nvidia for years are just jumping ship. And because of this strategic pivot, Nvidia's discrete GPU market share has actually dropped by 14%. That has opened the door wide open for competitors like AMD and Intel, whose sales have surged simply because, well, their cards are actually available to buy.
Now, while Nvidia focuses heavily on enterprise AI, Apple is taking a totally different route, bringing AI directly to your pocket. At WWDC 2026, Apple announced Visual Intelligence for iOS 27. And when we benchmarked it against the competition, the difference is literally night and day. Apple's on-device processing takes just 0.8 seconds to remove an object from a photo, compared to a clunky 3 to 7 seconds for Google and Samsung. Because Apple's model processes 100% locally on the device's neural engine, it works entirely offline. That means your private, personal photos are never ever sent to a cloud server. But, of course, there is always a catch, isn't there? To actually get that lightning-fast privacy, you need an A17 Pro chip or newer. It's a classic Apple trade-off. They are prioritizing speed and privacy, but doing so by basically forcing you to buy their newest, most expensive phone. This creates an expensive two-tier system where older iPhones are simply left in the dust, completely unable to run the feature. Google and Samsung are definitely more democratic, letting their AI work on older phones via the cloud. But the trade-off there is you totally sacrifice speed and privacy. Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, the ultimate tech defense protocol. Let's talk about taking back some control. Okay, here is your ultimate tech defense protocol. Let's lock this in so you can stay safe. First, turn off NFC on your phone when you aren't actively using it. That alone eliminates 90% of the endgate risk. Second, update iOS and Chrome right now to patch those nasty 0 days and notification bugs. Third, never just randomly search the App Store for crypto apps. Always download them via official websites. And if you have large sums, definitely use an offline hardware wallet. And finally, if you're a gamer struggling to build a PC, consider AMD or Intel. Vote with your wallet to encourage a healthier, way more competitive hardware market. So I want to leave you with something to really chew on today. We have this incredible AI that can beautifully edit photos in absolute milliseconds, but we also have malware that can invisibly drain our bank accounts with a single tap. We have unbelievable data center power, but everyday consumers are kind of being left out in the cold. As tech evolves at this breakneck speed, are we gaining convenience at the cost of our own control? It's a question we need to be constantly asking ourselves. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and never stop questioning the tools you use every single day. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.